We're being joined now by Brian Becker. He's the National Director of the Answer Coalition. Brian, good to see you. Thanks for being with us.
Thank you.
So this is a relatively major holiday in Russia. Can you give us some background on Victory Day as it pertains to us here in the United States?
Well, in the United States, it would be called Victory in Europe Day, May, in the same time period, marking the defeat of Nazism, the defeat of the German fascist military force. But, you know, VE Day in the United States, there's not much made of it, in fact. I think most Americans, if asked, what is this, won't know. Of course, for the Soviet Union, or now today Russia, the victory over fascism was a monumental turning point in the country's history and played such a huge role in the culture, the psyche, the politics, the narrative of Russia.
And how about now? Does the history and the current political climate between Russia and the United States, do you think that plays a role into why Americans don't hear about Victory Day or hear anything at all, really, about Russia's role in World War II?
Right. I mean, what we remember or what we don't remember has a big impact on what ideas we have, how it shapes our consciousness. The fact of the matter is the Soviet Union defeated 80% of the German divisions. 80%. You had 26.6 million Soviet people who lost their lives compared, say, to the United States, which lost a great number of people, but it was 440,000. Yeah. At that time, the Soviet Union and the United States were fighting a common foe. They were allies. And yet, all of this history is lost on the American people. Why? Because it's actually not taught in the schools. It's not part of the corporate-owned media narrative. And as a consequence, this amazingly important moment in the 20th century, and I would say for humanity going forward, is largely lost.
And, you know, in fact, another unsung hero that's never talked about in World War II, certainly not taught here stateside, is the role of China in World War II. They bore the brunt of the ground war against Japan, who surrendered officially in September, so their Victory Day is September 3rd. Russia has actually invited China and other allied leaders to march on their Victory Day parades in the past, tipping their hats to this global coordinated effort. Your thoughts on that? We don't hear about the U.S. doing that or being invited or...
Not at all. Well, you know, the United States sent a delegation in 2010 to Moscow for the commemoration of Victory Day. Now relations have soured so dramatically. The United States says nothing about Russia's role or about China's role. And again, if you look at what just happened in Washington, the Trump administration and the Pentagon have released the National Security Strategy and the Nuclear Posture Review, which targets China and Russia for major power confrontation as the priority for U.S. policy, going in exactly the wrong direction.
And you know, Benjamin Netanyahu is in Moscow today. He attended the Victory Day parade. He even accompanied Vladimir Putin for a wreath-laying ceremony at Red Square. Can you talk about the optics on this visit and on this day?
Well, of course, Netanyahu, the leader of the State of Israel, it's hard for anyone who pretends to care about the fate of Jewish people not to recognize the Soviet role. At the same time, Netanyahu has basically embraced Trump's assault against Iran, an important ally of Russia. And so we have a moment that has been shaped by the recent events, the most recent event being Trump's exit from the Joint Comprehensive Plan of Action, the Iran nuclear arms deal. Obviously, Putin and the Russian government don't think that's a good idea. They will stand strongly against Netanyahu on that position.